Welcome to Taking the Myth, your topical, skeptical discussion show. I'm Stephen Knight, and joining me for some razor-sharp, incisive commentary on all the big issues, it's Iram Ramzan. Iram, how you doing? Where have you been? What's going on?
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
We've both been on adventures. Yours slightly more interesting than mine, by the sounds of it.
Oh, that's always the case, though, isn't it?
That's fair.
I have more of a life. Yes, I went to Pakistan for another trek.
Training? I'm going to make this joke every time you go to Pakistan.
One day I am going to get a knock on the door from MI5 or something.
From the Popo.
I am, and
the Terror Popo.
I will, and then I'll have to turn to Cage to help me in my fight.
You little Cage hoodie.
Exactly. No, I definitely, for the record, did not get involved in any terrorist activities. Not unless you count terrorising idiot blokes. But yes, it was a great trip. How
long was you there for again?
So I was there in total for 2 weeks. The trek wasn't for 2 weeks, but
that's 13 days too long. Surely.
Probably. No, you need at least 2 weeks when you're there. But I managed to get sunburnt, which is quite funny because there were 3 English women on the trek. One was ridiculously pale and had factor 1,000 sun cream on. And I'm the one that ended up with sunburn, the Asian one. I'm pretty sure my ancestors are rolling in their graves right now.
Well, what did you do? What did you do when you were there? What was going on?
What, for the sunburn or just generally for the trek?
Just general. Did you do sightseeing?
Yeah, so basically I did a 3 to 4 day trek. We went up this place called Fairy Meadows, which has been...
Sounds very gay.
It's not gay. It's not gay. But it's very overdone.
You might as well call it Mount Homo.
I'm not sure I saw any brokeback activities. But
I don't think that'd go down well in Pakistan.
Yeah, probably not.
For want of a better phrase.
Not. Even though there are some closet homos there.
Unlike Iran, that has no homosexuality
whatsoever. Exactly. So Fairy Meadows, and then I did base camp of this mountain called Nanga Parbat, which translates...
You just made that up? That's not a real place.
Well, it translates to Naked Mountain.
Sounds very gay again, Iran. There's a lot of gay mountains in Pakistan.
Well,
maybe it's all that sexual homoerotic repression being manifested in hills.
It's a country where only the mountains are allowed to be uncovered. But anyway, so I did that, and then after that we did some sightseeing in the northern areas. I went to the China border, very high up, and it was snowing there. Just generally had a good time.
So a successful tour of Pakistan then? Lots of scenery? No beheadings?
But it was very hot, which you kind of expect. But, oh God, we've had the heat wave in the UK, 40 degrees last month. And then go to Pakistan and it's even, actually it wasn't hotter, but it was hot. And actually where I went in the mountain areas, it was only 20 degrees, so cooler than here, funnily enough. So I just can't escape this heat. I'm sick of it now.
Well, this is this feels like there's always like the idea of history repeating itself, and it seems like it's a constant revolving door of blasphemy controversies with Islam in the Western world. The latest, of course, or the earliest, it's hard to say now, is Salman Rushdie. You're well aware of the reaction to the satanic verses. People talk about it often solely in terms of the fatwa put on him by the Iranians. But I don't think a lot of people remember or acknowledge the gatherings and burning of the book and protests in our country as well. It had a global effect. There's been various attempts on Salman Rushdie's life over the years. I think a couple of his translators were either murdered or seriously injured or both.
Yeah, they have.
And of all places, somebody finally got to him, and by all rights, it probably should have been the end for him, given the extent of his injuries. Stabbed several times on a stage in New York.
Did they say about 10 to 15 times he was stabbed, or was that just a rumour? Because there was some reports suggesting that he was stabbed, but he was seen talking and standing after, when I think that was demonstrated to not be true. And then the other report was that he was stabbed nearly 10 to 15 times.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about the initial reports of him, being able to get to his feet. That wasn't true. That was false. He was airlifted out of there in critical condition for a while. I can't remember how many times he was stabbed, but the life-changing injuries. There's credible reports saying that he'll probably lose an eye as well. But we're talking like neck, body, head. So this was an attempt. This is an attempted assassination by any objective measure, and it's dare I say, almost a miracle that he's going to pull through. But it's just, I don't know about you, it's just one of them things that when it happens, you just, it just makes you angry and you just can't function while it's going on, because it just seems like such an injustice that not only has someone's life been almost extinguished for writing a work of fiction, inevitably the usual who's of Islamist loons will somehow attempt a defence of it, or some wishy-washy, useful idiots on the far left will either ignore it completely or make excuses for it. And like I say, it's history repeating it. It's now 2022 and we're embroiled in a Salman Rushdie controversy. It's mental. I don't know if you've got any thoughts or anything that hasn't already been said on this depressing issue. I've gone down now. I was more excited about Pakistan.
That really is saying something when talking about Pakistan sounds more hopeful.
Yeah. Take me back to the Gate Meadows.
Oh gosh. Well, I'll be honest with you. Some people are saying, "Oh, this is not surprising." Actually, I was really shocked, and I know people, sometimes use the word. Maybe the word shocked or shocking is overused, but I genuinely was shocked because I wasn't expecting it. Up until that point, he had been leading a relatively normal life. He hadn't had security for many years.
Is that right?
He didn't have security. So he initially, after the fatwas, he had the security, and I think that was for about 10 years. And then after that, he said, I'm just not going to be scared. I'm going to live my life as normal. And I guess there were still some precautions taken. Certain events may not have been publicised well in advance if he was speaking there, but generally he just refused to be scared. He wanted to live a normal life. He refused to be defined by the fatwa, and then look what happened. And I genuinely thought that maybe he's going to die, because he is quite old now, and he was stabbed in the neck, the stomach. He was stabbed multiple times. So as you said, it's quite miraculous that he recovered, and in hospital he was conscious, and he even made a joke in his hospital bed to show that he was doing well. So it's a relief to know that, but it's just I just thought, after all this time, after 30 years have passed, that people might have moved beyond it. But then we had that movie that came out a couple of months ago, Lady of Heaven, which, as you remember, I went to watch, I wrote about. And this was a movie that was deemed to be offensive to a certain group of Muslims, even though it was written and produced and by Muslims themselves, but they're the wrong type of Muslims, obviously. So clearly that movie was offensive, and it was the cinemas in the UK stopped screening it due to the
Cineworld specifically, wasn't it?
It was Cineworld, but others followed. So
I'm saying, because Cineworld has just recently hit the headlines for filing for bankruptcy, and just out of complete confirmation bias and wish fulfillment, I'm going to convince myself it was because they succumbed to a blasphemy mob on that one film. It's not. It's probably got nothing to do with that whatsoever.
There are other
but
factors.
In a perfect world, that's what happened. Yeah.
I mean, in a way, I guess I don't blame these cinemas for not showing the film, especially when you're faced with a mob and they look like they're going to get violent, then they have to think about their safety. Because let's face it, the police are going to do fuck all. Our politicians are going to do and have done fuck all. So am I surprised? No. That I'm not surprised that they got scared in a way. And with Salman Rushdie again, the people were talking about this afterwards, saying that it's unlikely that the satanic verses would ever get written today. And I think, the more I think about it, the more I realise actually that is true. I just don't think it would get written today, or if it did, then no one would publish it. It's
I know, and I think people forget it's not a critical work, like it's not a polemic about Islam.
Yeah, but even if it was a polemic, so what? Even if it was a polemic, so what? People have the right to express their views, even if we disagree with them. Maybe I disagree with someone's views on Islam or Muslims, fine. Well, let's stick to Islam specifically. I might disagree with it, I might agree with some of it, but, it's not for me to say whether their work should be banned or not. It shouldn't. And if you disagree with something, why don't you present your own view forward? So, like with this Lady of Heaven film, if you didn't like the portrayal of Islam or Muslims in that movie, then make your own movie.
Yeah. No, that's entirely how free speech should work in a liberal environment. But I've got some good news for you. Continuing the trend of utterly counterproductive acts of violence from Islamists, The Guardian has reported that UK sales of the Satanic Verses surge after Rushdie stabbing. So that's once again an example of the Streisand effect, isn't it? People are very curious as to what the Satanic Verse is about, verse are about rather. Some are just buying it out of a sense of solidarity. Some people are revisiting it. That's what happens. So
that just goes to show you these people have shot themselves in their own foot.
It's like Charlie Hebdo.
Yeah,
then.
So, why draw attention to something that you think is offensive? If you think it's that offensive, and you don't think people should go watch it because they're going to be offended, then don't draw attention to it. I mean, when I went to watch that movie, there are a few people who said they wanted to see it purely because they'd heard it was controversial and wanted to see why. This is what happens when you ban things or label something controversial. It makes people want to do it even more. So your protests and your objections, they're going to have the opposite effect of what you want. And that's exactly what's happened with Satanic Verses. It's made more people curious and it's made people want to read the book. So, all these Islamists, in a way, have lost. But I think, sadly, I think in the grand scheme of things, I think they're winning the war because, like I said to you before, I don't think this book would get published now. It's already published, it's out there, that's different. But if someone were to write anything else about Islam or the Prophet Muhammad, then I just don't think it would be published now. And unfortunately, there are people on the left who side with these people. They'll say, oh yeah, free speech, but we shouldn't punch down. That's their favorite phrase. We shouldn't punch down. Like, I just wish people punch them in the face, coming out with ridiculous statements like that. Do you remember Shirley Williams?
Like, how is it punching down when it's like they've got the entire might of the Iranian state behind this fatwa and billions of Muslims in the world? It's such a silly expression, this punching down.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you that these people do eventually win, because all they have to do is, speak out and threaten and make some threats, and that's it. Everything, they shut it all down. So, what does that say about our society, that we just can't stand up for our beliefs and our values? People are, people end up self-censoring as well. Even if the state isn't censoring you, there are people who are now just beginning to censor themselves because they know what kind of response they're going to get, and that nobody's going to defend them. I mean, they might get a few well-meaning liberal writers or activists standing up for them, but when you're faced with death threats, then you just back down.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I just wish, and I've said this a million times, I understand being afraid. I just wish people would say, you know what, I'm not getting involved in that because I'd very much like to keep my head on its neck. Thank you very much. I mean, you only have to look at that poor teacher from Yorkshire who's still living in hiding for trying to do his job, and the complete refusal of the main establishments to support him and say, no, enough is enough. You will not put a teacher into hiding for committing an act of blasphemy. And after this incident, a lot of people quite rightly went out and revisited the satanic verses. I went straight to Christopher Hitchens' autobiography, Hitch 22. He's got an entire chapter. I think it's just called Salman, actually. And Hitch was really good friends with Salman Rushdie before the Rushdie affair, as it's known, when he published the Satanic Verses, and he remained friends with him long after, right up until Christopher Hitchens' death. And he speaks about trying to get people on side to support him or get funding for him to make appearances and how difficult it was. He speaks about bringing him to his home in Washington, D.C. at the height of this, and having to have round-the-clock security to the point where he's made assume that he had the Prime Minister visiting or something like that. But he was soon told by the Secret Services afterwards that the best thing for him to do now would to be move address. They've heard some credible chatter that he's in danger too, and he just completely refused. Balls of steel, that man. But there are not enough people like him on the planet anymore, unfortunately, and we all want a nice, easy life because we assume the principles that we've got, all the rights that have been afforded to us are there forever, and they'll always exist and we'll always have them. People don't realise they constantly have to be defended each and every time they come under attack from each and every corner of the discourse. Otherwise you will lose them. You might as well relinquish. If you're not ready to defend them, you don't deserve to have them. That's my philosophy on free speech.
I have to say, I have read Satanic Verses. I was curious. I just wanted to know what it was like as a book, why it was so offensive. And I have to say, I didn't really like it as a novel. I just struggled with it. For me, it was very difficult to read.
Not enough pictures?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
It'd probably be more trouble with pictures, though, wouldn't it? That's the thing.
I thought that's why you were saying the picture thing. Yeah. No, seriously, I just found it difficult to engage with the book. And a few people have said that they've preferred his other books like Midnight's Children or Shalimar the Clown. And I've not read those. I've watched Midnight's Children, the movie, and I would like to read the novel. But, purely from a literary point of view, I just struggled to read it. But I doubt anyone who criticised Rushdie or any of these people who went on the protests and burned the book had actually read the damn book. But
of course not. Or any book. Any fucking book.
Apart from the Quran.
Well, yeah, of course. And then I'm not entirely convinced they've read that in full.
Oh, yeah, they read it in Arabic and don't bother reading translations to see what it actually means. They just, I think, why limit yourself? Why not be a bit more curious, expand your mind? And if you read it and you still find it offensive, fine. I don't know if you saw, but, the former Pakistani Prime Minister, Imran Khan, was interviewed by The Guardian. Yeah. And he said, what Rushdie did was offensive, but he didn't deserve to die. And he had to retract his statement. Wow. He had to retract his statement Imagine. Because he got into trouble for it. And he's like, The Guardian misquoted me. What a weasel. I mean, oh my God. Can you imagine? You can't even say you don't wish death upon someone because even that could get you done for blasphemy. I mean, how ridiculous is that? Well,
I get the impression we could probably fill an entire episode about Salman Rushdie. I would like not to speak about him ever again in the nicest possible sense, because it would just mean some sort of further tragedy or attempt on his life. But maybe swinging things a little closer to home in the UK, it might be worth talking about the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure. I've kind of been, whilst it was on, I've been to Edinburgh while it's been on there. I've seen street performers and things like that. The idea is it's just a place for a gathering of all sorts of comedy. And the general perception of it is that, you know, no holds barred kind of thing. Comedians, it's almost a safe space to be able to say and do what you like. And, you know, if people respond well to it, there's a good chance you may get an agent. If you're an unknown, you may get a show. You know, it might become something big. It's almost like almost like a talent show writ large for upcoming comedians.
So like
and
Edinburgh's Got
as
Talent, basically.
Yeah, like Edinburgh's Got Talent, yeah. So there is a comedian, and I have to be honest, I only know his name, Jerry Sadowitz this is, because he's often referenced by other comedians. He seems to me to be like the comedian's comedian.
Right.
And to be honest,
I've never heard of him.
I've
never heard of him.
Well, he's a Scottish comedian. He, apparently, from what I've gathered, and this is coming from a place of ignorance because I haven't seen a lot of his stuff, it's actually very difficult to get hold of clips of his stuff because it's so controversial. But from what I can tell, he plays a character. He plays like he's very ironic with sort of racism, misogyny, all the isms, and apparently
Well, that went down well, I bet.
Yes, well, here's the thing though. So when I noticed that, so the headline is Jerry Sadowitz show cancelled by venue boss. So he had a show that was supposed to run during Edinburgh Fringe. He did one performance of several, and it got cancelled. Now, the details I've been able to find, like when I first read this headline, I thought, well, I know what he's done. He's upset the gender goblins, hasn't he? That's what he's done. He said the wrong thing about transgenderism, and some fucking them has complained, right? It turns out he got his cock out, Iram, which was a little bit of a shock to me.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure how to process it. So my initial response to that was, well, you can't do that, mate. You can't do that in public around people. But I've also been told, actually, it's part of his act, and people know that going in. So
people willingly go to watch him get his dick out.
Yeah, willingly see Willie. And it's sort of like, I get the argument that if this was on the street, that's indecent exposure. If this is at a paid performance, it's something different. We are, you know, exhibitionist nudity isn't illegal in the UK, given certain circumstances and situations. So apparently it was some people, not necessarily audience members, but staff at the venue who complained, and it was cancelled. So this is an awkward one, isn't it? I mean, I'd prefer him to have got cancelled for something he said. I'd be on much firmer ground, or I'd be in my comfort zone a bit more. How do you feel about this?
Well, I definitely wouldn't go to see a show where someone got their dick out. I'll be honest with you. You know, I mean, unless it's like Hugh Jackman or something, but
yeah.
Yeah, doesn't sound like something I would go to see, but apparently he's been doing this for a long time. Everyone knows what his humour's like, and people are happy to part with their cash to hear this humour and to see his bits and bobs. So, you know, I mean,
bits and bobs.
Bits and bobs, like
bitsandbobs.com. I bet that exists.
I bet it does. Anyway,
if you made it this far, I think that's the hashtag, isn't it? Bits and bobs. We're not going to top that.
Bits and bobs. I think we could top that.
All right, challenge accepted.
But I just think if people have paid to see that, then I don't know. It's your money. It's your money. You've gone to see it willingly. Emphasis on willing.
That's still funny.
It just seems bizarre. If he's had this routine for many years, why is it now unacceptable?
Well, times have changed, haven't they? So I think just a couple of points here. So I'm not paying for comedy cock. It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay for cock either.
I have a dislike of people getting to decide on behalf of others what they can and can't see. So if somebody wants to pay, I'm with you, if someone wants to pay their hard-earned cash, to see that kind of thing, fine, but don't let some outsider decide for everyone else what they can and can't see. In regards to the exposure thing, though, so first of all, the listing for his show carried a warning that said, this show contains strong language and themes some might find distressing. Now, the Pleasance Theatre Trust said his performance was cancelled because opinions such as those displayed on stage by Sadowitz are not acceptable, and the Pleasance are not prepared to be associated with such material. So it does appear that they've responded more to the spoken word than the dilly dangler. But I did see some other... See, this is half the problem of them not specifying or showing the offending articles. I heard reports that he'd referred to Rishi Sunak as a Paki. Now, I think if you use that word to describe someone of South Asian origin, it's racist, and that is unacceptable. And if I was running a show and somebody was being racist on my show, I'd shit can them as well. But you also have to say, well, in what context did he just say that word?
Yeah.
Because I've just said that word and I wasn't being racist. I just said that word in defense of anti-racism. So that's what's so stupid about giving words magical powers, because it very much depends on how they're being used. So I don't know. Again, we're in the dark, aren't we? Because someone's decided on behalf of us that this is far too offensive for us to see.
Yeah, like you said, it's the fact that people are deciding, like with, like all these Islamists and these regimes abroad deciding on our behalf what we can and can't be offended by. That's just what I can't get to grips with. Who are you to tell me what I should find offensive? I mean, I think I can decide that for myself, thank you very much. And so can you. So can most normal people.
I think you should go and see Jerry Sadowitz for the Mail now. I'm sure he's probably got a new tour somewhere. I'm sure someone's picked him up.
Yeah.
No, and you can...
no.
You can do a proper... You can suffer through it so we don't have to.
Yeah, I'm not going to go see his...
No.
See mini Jerry. Jerry Jr.
Jerry Jr. Yeah, we need to... it'd be worth it just for the headline pun, wouldn't it? Really?
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean...
I'll think of one before the end of the show. And Daily Mail headline pun for Jerry Sadowitz getting his ding-dong out.
Ding-dong is Jerry Sadowitz. I think maybe listeners can come up with their own headlines as well, just to prove we actually...
Jerry Sadowitz tackles offensive comedy. Well, keeping on this topic of entertainment...
Oh, I thought you were going to say talking about tackles.
Keeping on this topic of manly parts... No, well, I suppose it does tie into this a little bit. I love movies. I'm a massive movie buff, unlike our friend Michael Owen. You like your films, maybe not as mental of a devotion to them as me, but something positive hit the headlines not so long ago.
No.
And this was in stark contrast to other things we've seen. So I'm no doubt you would have seen this spate of streamers. So in the digital area now, physical media's becoming obsolete. People are opting for digital copies for streamers, your Disney Pluses, your Netflix, HBO Max, Amazon, all them kind of things. But what that's allowed is for studios to go back and edit and remove problematic material that doesn't chime with the day. And they've done that on a number of occasions, sometimes just outright removing episodes that are now deemed offensive. And for me, that's silly. I think we should contextualize them and say why they're offensive now and why they almost as acceptable then, etc. People aren't stupid; they can learn. So,
well, some people are stupid.
Some people are stupid, yeah. Luckily, this is from The Guardian, Paramount have said they won't remove content from eras with different sensibilities. So they're launching their streaming service soon, and their CEO, Bob Backish, said his company had thousands of shows in its back catalogue. And he said, by definition, you have some things that were made in a different time and reflect different sensibilities. I don't believe in censoring art that was made historically. That's probably a mistake. It's all on demand. You don't have to watch anything you don't want to. Now,
what a bastard. Ugh.
But that last line, it's perfect, isn't it? Why aren't more people saying that?
Oh, because you know what it's like. A few people object on Twitter or protest outside and, they immediately just give in to the mob when they don't realise actually the vast majority of people don't want you to take things down because they're deemed offensive. Again, we want to decide for ourselves. And also, who gets to decide what's going to offend people, and how do you decide what's offensive, and how far back in time do you go? Do you seriously, if you've got a film from the 1940s, obviously that's going to have very different sensibilities to the ones that we have now. We've seen this before with things like BritBox, an iPlayer, I think, removing content that they believe is no longer appropriate for modern tastes. But then you have, was it Little Britain? And that was only filmed, probably like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And even then that's deemed inappropriate for modern taste now because it contains blackface, someone imitating a woman from Thailand, cross-gendered dressing, things like that, and that's deemed offensive to modern tastes now.
Yeah, I think the constant catchphrases are more offensive to me than anything else, and the laughter track. I think that's grounds for cancellation. Yeah, but I mean, did you see the new Top Gun film?
Do you know? I have a confession to make.
Please don't.
I won't say it.
You haven't seen the first Top Gun, have you? No. Iram, you've lost that loving feeling.
I tried to watch it and I downloaded it and the link wouldn't work. So I need to find a way to watch Top Gun. Actually, even Top Gun's deemed problematic. I remember reading a few articles saying that, it's so sexist and the guy is just so dismissive towards women. It's so not feminist. And you think, it's a fucking movie. It's not supposed to be a handbook for life. You're not going to get, your guide on life from Top Gun. And the whole point, apparently, of the character is that he is supposed to be a bit of a prat. And, no one's supposed to idolize him in that way. And it's a movie, for God's sake.
Yeah, he's flawed. He's flawed. He's a reckless character.
Yeah, so he's flawed like most humans are. Okay. And what?
The thing is, though, the new film is an absolute masterpiece. And this is it's made over $1 billion, which is this incredible benchmark for any movie, and it also happens to be a Paramount franchise. Now, this film it's almost been used in the culture war a little bit as an anti-woke film, and I don't agree with that. I think why it's been successful or why it's being appealing to audiences, it's not because it's anti-woke, it's because it's completely woke neutral. It's apolitical. It's saying we've got good guys and here's the bad guys, and we've got a mission, and it's going to be entertaining, and we're not going to lecture you about the military and the evil military-industrial complex. We're not going to give you a lesson on gender disparity. We're not going to give you a lesson on toxic masculinity. No, we're going to have good guys and bad guys, and we're going to have high stakes, and we're going to show you some of the most spectacular aerial photography you've seen in your fucking life, and Tom Cruise is going to smile a lot. And the soundtrack's going to be banging.
Doesn't Tom Cruise look a bit weird in this film, though? I mean, hasn't he just had a bit of work done that he looks a bit, I don't know, strange?
There's something going on with his face in publicity shots I've seen. It's a bit puffy. May possibly indicate he's had something done. But to be fair,
does he still do it for
the original film? Well, it's age appropriate, so in its fairness, what it doesn't do is show Tom Cruise as exactly the same person who's like amazingly successful. It paints him as almost a tragic figure that time's passed him by because of his insubordination, because of his recklessness, and his love interest is age appropriate as well. It's Jennifer Connelly. It's not some 20-year-old hot model pretending to be into this 50, nearly 60-year-old man.
Oh, so it's not like a Bollywood movie where The lead actor is a 50-year-old man who looks like he needs a walking stick, and then he's romancing an 18-year-old who just looks like his granddaughter.
But it's the first time I've sat in a cinema for a while and completely forgot about outside world politics. They became completely irrelevant. All the culture wars, all the things that we're bickering about now, and all the politics that are in our face and in our pocket on our phones 24 hours a day. It was a fucking movie, and it was great. So I think studios might look at that now and think maybe an all-female reboot of Ocean's 11 isn't the way to go. Or an all-females Ghostbusters. Or maybe we shouldn't do like a race swap this or a transgender that. Maybe we should just concentrate on story and character first. And if those things fit in, great. But let's not force, jigsaw pieces from another box into a beautiful landscape, if that makes sense. That's a very Alan Partridge metaphor, isn't it?
Oh my God, you're a partridge. I have to admit, I've seen the female Ocean's 11, and I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was, an award-winning movie.
That's a shit review, though. Didn't think it was bad.
It was watchable. It was, it was a good...
That could be a review of Herpes, couldn't it? It's like, it's so uninspired.
I mean, it was one of those, it was a girly night in, we watched it. It did it for us, fine.
Yeah,
whatever.
Sometimes all you need is a bit of popcorn fun, isn't it?
Sometimes you just need a movie it'll do, you don't need to think too much, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, here's a story that I've been wanting to talk to you about. We've not recorded since May, I don't think, and this happened in June, but I usually get rid of stories that are a few weeks old. That's how quick the news cycle and the internet podcast cycle works. But I thought I have to talk to you about this one because not only is it hilarious, it's a great example of when certain cultures come into collision with modern day sensibilities.
Oh.
So this is from the Mail Online. I'll read you this headline. Pakistani Muslim primary school worker loses religious discrimination lawsuit she brought after boss called her a guinea pig. Now, this is amazing.
Oh my God.
So, Jasha or Yaja, Jasia, Yaja? Jasha? Jasha. Sounds like a sneeze, doesn't it?
I need to look at this.
Jasha Haroon, Sneeze Haroon, attempted to sue Manacroft Primary School in Egham, Surrey. She claimed assistant head teacher Emma Bell referred to her as a guinea pig. Now,
are you taking the piss? Really, is this taking the piss?
So we know in like conservative Islamic circles, pork-based products and or pigs are considered haram. Okay, so that's why this Muslim primary school teachers took offence to it. But as anyone with a couple of brain cells know, when you refer to someone as a guinea pig, you're basically saying they're a test pilot. They are the canary down the mine because they just put this woman on a new induction scheme. They said to her, "You're the guinea pig for this scheme." And the woman argued in court that being called a pig of any kind was offensive to her and that she had been a victim of discrimination as a result. So, what? Like, this is a real court case that happened. And the funny thing is,
oh my God,
the way these things go sometimes, I was almost relieved to find out the court said, "You can fuck off, Mrs. Sneeze."
I'm still waiting for you to tell me this is a made-up story.
She even said she even understood why it was being used. This is the weird thing. So she said, "I was their test subject. That is why they use the phrase guinea pig. I went through the induction process and was told it was a new process, that I was a guinea pig." And then she goes and say, "I find the word pig offensive. For me, calling me pig of any kind is against my religion. The word pig is offensive to me."
Okay. Right. Can I actually tell you a little story here? Which might
go on.
Might explain the sheer lunacy in this art.
Wait, sheer or sheer?
Hey, the sunny lunacy here. Oh, I might get beheaded for that comment. Right.
Careful.
So, I remember as a child, and when I used to go to mosque, and if you ever said the word pig, all the kids would be like, and I said, what? You can't say that word. Which word? P-I-G. And they'd spell it. They would never actually say the word pig, because apparently saying the word pig makes your mouth impure and unclean. So even saying it is unclean. It's almost as... So it's not just bad for you to consume pork of any kind.
Yeah.
It's even wrong to even say the P-I-G word. I just remember we'd be talking and someone would be speaking and say, yeah, and basically there was a P-I-G on the farm. And I thought, why are we spelling this word? It's so stupid.
Wasn't there some stupid Peppa Pig controversy a while back in the same kind of vein? I'm sure there was calls for that to be banned, or it has been banned in certain countries or whatever.
I mean, it's a cartoon pig. It's not, Peppa Pig isn't encouraging anyone, let alone Muslim kids, to eat pigs, because, wouldn't that be cannibalism? She wouldn't be encouraging the eating of pork, because that would just be suicidal. How are we even having this discussion?
Yeah.
It's just, how has this woman wasted an entire tribe?
She's clearly very pig-headed.
Time and money. Oh my God. I mean...
I bet she wished she could wind back the clock.
Are you done? Or do you have one more?
Let me get thinking. I'll get back to you. Sorry,
get out of your system. I mean... A guinea pig has absolutely no link with an actual pig. They
different species. Different species. Yeah, it's not. It's not even a pig.
It's not. I don't even know why it's called a pig of any kind.
It's a rodent. Sure, a guinea pig's a rodent.
It is a rodent, and they are quite gross. I'm sorry, I don't think guinea pigs are cute. I think they're fucking rodents and should be exterminated. Sorry to all guinea.
Jesus Christ!
I'm sorry, I just can't stand rodents. Okay, I just about tolerate squirrels. Yeah. I think all rodents should be annihilated. I'm sorry, but
fuck rodents.
Yeah, exterminate.
All right. I'm still thinking of bacon puns. Well, yeah, it's completely silly. And here's what's good for me nowadays, and I've always been anti-litigation. I always think it should be a last resort for anything. Once you've exhausted all reasonable channels of reconciliation and you still feel you've been the victim of an injustice, take it to court, sure. I mean, what we found now is when women have started taking things to court, or people have started taking frivolous suits to court, they're getting spanked now because their delusions and irrational ideologies facing the full test of the law and serious people that care about facts. It does not go well.
Well, I mean, she was this lady though. I mean, she's claiming she was unfairly sacked because she refused to come back to work during the pandemic. So it wasn't just the guinea pig thing. I think that added to it. So she was claiming religious and race discrimination as well as being unfairly sacked. So there's two different things there. And I'm sorry, but if you're refusing to come back to work, then your bosses have to really think long and hard. Do we need this kind of person here who's refusing to work and we're paying them? Just legitimate concerns there, pandemic or not. I just love the fact that Wales Online that reported the story illustrated it with a picture of a guinea pig, just in case you're in any doubt what a guinea pig is. This is a guinea pig. It's not an actual pig.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. It doesn't mean pig. It's not a pig. She's a lunatic. So yeah, unfortunate day in court for her. thankfully. What else are we talking about now? So we can talk about Marks and Spencer.
Oh my God, yes.
We can talk about drag queen kids story time. We can talk about the PCSO visiting the woman's house for that trans sticker. What do we roll the dice on here?
Let's do M&S. Let's do M&S. I'm quite annoyed by that as well. Well, I'm annoyed by many things.
All right. Well, what I'll do is I'll set it up, and you can unwind and just unload and let me know why you're so annoyed about it.
All right, here we go.
Here we go. Take a breath. So, Marks and Spencer, huge retailer in the UK, sells lots of things, but prominent amongst them clothes. Sort of thought as very upmarket, isn't it? Quite posh, expensive.
Not as much, I guess. Their food's pretty all right, you know.
They do market on that idea of it being a sort of luxury, don't they? And whether it is or not, that's their marketing campaign. But I digress, because I wrote something about this on my Substack. I'll put it in the show notes, but they have basically changed their changing rooms policy, and they changed it in 2019 without any consultation with their customers. They just decided that they would allow their changing rooms to be gender neutral, meaning that a customer could choose anywhere they got dressed, tried on clothes, whatever cubicle they wanted to use. So they've essentially eliminated single-sex spaces from their changing rooms. And anywhere this has been tried has led to a whole host of opportunist men, either assaulting people. Chief among them is usually like swimming pool, mixed change facilities, voyeurism, so that's filming people under cubicles, things like that. And a lot of the retailers are doing this in the name of inclusivity. And Marks and Spencer was asked about this again on Twitter. Someone on Twitter goes by the name of Biffer has said, "Dear Marks and Spencer, I'm still waiting an answer. I've also taken the time to fill in the survey sent as part of my online order. I'm sorry I'm sending so many clothes back to you, but I need a female-only changing room." So Marks and Spencer replied with, "Well, they are mainly used by customers of that gender. As an inclusive retailer, and in line with most of the retailers, we allow customers the choice of fitting room." So the main takeaway sentences from that is, as an inclusive retailer and in line with most of the retailers, we allow customers the choice of fitting room. So I can go and get change wherever I want in M&S. Anyone can. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I wonder what they'd do if I decide I want to go and change in the men's changing rooms. I doubt many men would have an objection to that, to be honest.
That's true. Yeah, that's probably true. But I mean, but this issue isn't like for like.
No, it's not. It's not the same.
There is a specific reason why we should be more concerned about men in women's spaces than vice versa.
I just don't get why they risk. They risk destroying their customer base to pander to what someone has pointed out online as a demographic that wouldn't be seen dead shopping there. I mean, how many trans women are going to be shopping at M&S? And also, they're saying that they've allowed customers the choice of fitting room. Well, it's not a choice if women can't choose a single-sex alternative. It's different if all the changing rooms were just free-for-all unisex, and it's the same with toilets as well. It's different if a company or a restaurant just has toilets that anyone can use regardless. Whereas what you're seeing now is increasingly you have a men's toilet and then you have a gender neutral toilet. So essentially men have two toilets that they can go into. You've not allowed women the choice of having their own spaces. And historically, we know why women need separate spaces. And it's not to say that all men are going to be, attacking them. But, there is going to be that minority that will use those areas to prey on women. And we've seen this happen, in prisons where someone can say they identify as a woman and they've moved to a woman's prison or a woman's ward, and they go and rape a woman, and then it's recorded as a crime committed by a woman, when we all know it's a man that's committed the crime. It's not it's not a woman that's committed it. And also, under the law, there are supposed to be single sex spaces, and if they're allowing men to use women's changing rooms because they identify as women, then they're not following the law. Why is it that women are being made to feel uncomfortable just for the comforts of a very, very, very tiny minority? How many trans people are there? And if they, and I'm sorry, but why can't they just use the men's changing rooms?
Well, we had that conversation, didn't we, a while back on the podcast about the biological bloke who identified as non-binary getting pissed off because he was refused entry to the changing rooms in Monsoon.
He got a refund. Sorry, they got a refund. I got a free dress. That's it. Monsoon decided to give this cheapskate a free dress because they complained about it. For fuck's sake. They just see a Twitter storm coming over. The comfort of men pretending to be women now is more important than the dignity, the safety and privacy of women. How have we got to this situation?
The new women, as Ricky Gervais refers to them as, they're worth so much more in society nowadays than women.
The new women with cocks.
Yeah, but just to, I've wrote about this in my blog. So obviously there are a statistically significant number of perverted men who will take any opportunity to behave as perverts, deviants, assaulters, things like that. That's why we have safeguarding. And now a lot of people will accuse us when we talk about this of demonizing all transgender people as rapists, perverts and voyeurs in waiting. But the truth is the exact same safeguarding concerns that apply to trans people apply to me as a non-trans person. And for exactly the same reasons, I'm not allowed in the female changing rooms. And I don't start going, how dare you? Are you treating me as a rapist? Are you treating me as a pervert? Are you defaming me as some sort of deviant for not letting me in the women's changing rooms? I go, oh yeah, that's probably a good idea because you don't know whether I'm a deviant or not. You can't just eyeball me and think he's probably safe. And furthermore, me saying I'm safe isn't enough to you can't just opt out of safeguarding concerns. That puts more women in danger. So obviously, single sex space, there's always this refrain of do you think single sex spaces are going to stop rapists and perverts, etc.? And I'm like, well, no, it's not going to stop them all. But a policy based entirely on self-ID is certainly going to lead to more. So again, it's a complex situation and there are no perfect solutions. There are just better solutions than others. And it's a no-brainer. Single-sex spaces are a much better solution to this issue than saying, fill your boots, go wherever you want, because all that does is benefit predators, unfortunately.
It is. And you just know that there are going to be predators out there who use this to their advantage, and
That's what they do. That's what opportunists do. They look for ways to circumnavigate laws, rules, norms, any way they can. And we have seen reports and statistics about unisex spaces now leading to more instances of sexual assault of women. So, use the facility that corresponds with your own biology. It's the same rule for everyone, so there's no confusion.
Exactly. And I've said this before, I think this is just another form of misogyny. It's blatantly disrespecting women's rights, women's needs and comforts, all to cater to a very tiny minority. Why are their needs more important than ours?
It's a great question, because you will notice men going to bat for this cause and they will be so vicious and abusive and throw every insult and label under the sun,
calling us
directly
turf
at women. Yeah, and I spoke to Julie Bindle on the podcast the other day, and she made a good point. She said turf's just a way of men being able to call us cunts. It's just spelled differently. You can swap that out. Really, in any situation, it seems to work. But it's weird how they're so concerned about one type of woman, but not the actual concerns of actual women in their spaces and their rights. I'm not a feminist. I I don't want cred for championing women's rights, but this is just one of the most obvious scandals of the common era, and it's just amazing that not enough people are like sticking their head above the parapet and saying, "Come on now, it's time to call a spade a spade.
It's time to call a cock a cock, yeah. a man a man."
It's funny how we were talking before about things that are outmoded get cancelled in films, and it's this current era that's doing it. It's the Gen Z or whatever who are the first ones to clamp down on offensive material. I cannot wait till those fuckers hit their early 40s and they look back at the things they used to support and how society's changed, and they realise actually maybe they didn't have all the answers, and maybe they were capable of wrongdoing and evil too.
Each new generation will look at the old generation as, dinosaurs and wonder why on earth they did things the way they did. Maybe the generation after that will look at Gen Z and think, what the fuck? Let's go back to proper single-sex spaces, people.
But yeah, I think that's our trans content for 1 month. Did you wanna touch on anything else, or have we nailed it for the week?
Have you listened to Meghan Markle's podcast?
Oh my god, no! I've been saving it because
it's just a blinder.
It's been difficult during this heat wave to actually nod off. So...
Yeah, if you are struggling to sleep and you've got insomnia, please listen to Meghan Markle having a chat with Serena Williams. Because
the thing is, I mean, I've not listened to it, so this is a little bit unfair, but I think she's been living under the false pretense that she's interesting because she was an actress, a celeb, and then she was a princess in the royal family. And then when she has to sit down and talk and actually engage, the wheels quickly fall off, as is common with people with inflated egos and low talent.
Yeah, I listened to it, so you didn't have to. But by all means, if you're suffering from insomnia, do download it. I mean, it's supposed to be a chat rather, with Serena, great tennis champion and everything. And the first 11 minutes is all about Meghan Markle and how, she got Procter and Gamble to change their advert because it was so sexist. Yeah, 11-year-old me, I did this. Pat on the back. Even though that story has actually, it's not been proven to be true, there were some doubts about the authenticity of the story.
Wait a minute. Are you trying to imply Meghan Markle is somewhat liberal with the truth?
I'm not suggesting anything, Stephen.
All right, because can't have that.
We'll have our lawyers all over the podcast.
She's a beacon of truth and
we'll
virtue.
Lose all our 3 listeners.
I've never liked the royal family, and I've specifically not liked him and her a lot. And it really irked me when everyone said they're only treating her poorly because of racism. And I'm like, did you not see how the press treated Diana? Did you not see Kate Middleton as well? Like
everyone gets
the
roasted.
Tabloids are horrible to people of a lot of fame and or authority. Certainly monarchs.
That's what happens when you're in the public eye. You will get roasted, and sometimes quite rightly. And if you're going to be in the public eye, you have to get thick skin and be able to handle it. But she can't handle any negative criticism. She just can't handle it. And she talks, they made this move to America because, they wanted more privacy. And yet they're making a documentary, they're doing this podcast, they're revealing so much about themselves. But I'm sorry, where's the privacy? And...
No, they wanted all the fame without all the duty. That's what they wanted. I kind of get it. I'm like, I imagine being a royal is very restrictive in all the ways you'd imagine it is. I'm not going to shed a tear for them, but that life wouldn't be for me either. But I just think they should be more honest about their intentions. Yeah, this idea of courting privacy is just bollocks, isn't it? Given, exemplified by the fact I've heard them or read them or seen them somewhere doing something every week since they said they were moving to America or whatever.
Yeah, and it's just, it's full of Californian speak. You don't understand what she's on about half the time. And you know how Williams recently announced a retirement from tennis, or rather, she's evolved away from tennis. And Meghan's like, you're choosing liberation and newness. I love that so much. Oh, pass me the sick bucket. I don't know if you've noticed this as well.
She wants to be Oprah, doesn't she? That's what it is.
Yeah, she's like a poor woman's Oprah.
Nopra.
Nopra. But have you noticed now there's a trend when it comes to celebrity interviews? They have to moan about something. They have to complain about something. It's never, oh, I'm happy with what I've achieved. Oh, I'm doing this new thing in my life. We want a bit of escapism with celebrities. We want them to talk about, the glamorous shit that they do in their lives and all the surgery they've had that they won't admit to. They just pretend, I'm on this new diet that's ironed out all my wrinkles miraculously. That's what we want. We don't want celebrities pretending to be like normal people, like, oh, like I'm struggling to pay the bills now. I've just had to get rid of like my chauffeur,
my fourth Tesla or something.
Yeah, I can only have like 3 nannies instead of 4. It's just
they don't live in the real world. They've never lived in the real world, and that's why they're so tone deaf. So when they're crying "woe is me" about their financial situation, and we look at the Hollywood mansion they're staying in, it's kind of like I find it hard to relate, and they don't seem to understand. Like I get it; they are under a high amount of pressure. A lot of us are. A lot of us have careers and work and family stuff that can be unpleasant, sure, but we don't get lauded as these wonderful icons. We don't get treated like literal royalty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody turns up on the street corner to see us come down the street in a car. We don't have taxpayers' money. Well, yeah, sure. So it's kind of like this woe is me thing would only really work if they weren't a product of immense privilege and fortune. When people bang the word privilege around at me, sort of like a northern working class person, yet talk about how difficult Meghan Markle and that fuckface has got it, I'm like, I almost don't care. I mean, I don't care, but it's kind of like I don't care so much that it's gone right round, and I feel like I have to opine on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when the Spider-Man actor Tom Holland said he was going to take a break from social media, to focus on his mental health, and he said, I had to do this for my mental health. I find Instagram and Twitter to be overstimulating and overwhelming. I get caught up and I spiral when I read things about me online. I think, well, okay, I get it. Twitter can be a hole sometimes, really. It's full of shit sometimes. But, you don't have to read everything online. You have agents, you have PR people. Why don't you get them to go through your social media if you can't handle hearing a few mean things? They have the tools for it, and you have to be thick-skinned when you're in this industry. And I think what this just reveals is that they're a bunch of babies. They can't handle any criticism. They don't like it when people call them out on their bullshit. And people don't like you. Sometimes, okay, you're gonna get trolled by a few people online now, and I get it. It can't be pleasant. If you can't handle it, hire someone to go through your social media for you, so you don't have to handle it. And I'm sorry, you're getting paid millions and millions of dollars or pounds or whatever. You should be able to put up with that shit. Okay, so you get a few idiots online who said, "Oh, I thought you were crap, a Spider-Man." Oh, boo-hoo. You get paid to put up with that. Grow a pair.
The problem is as well, like, there's a certain amount of mystery that complements a high-profile actor or performer. And once you've seen them sharing some really fucking dumb political opinion online or arguing with some random account. I mean, keep in mind, I am fully aware I'm a hypocrite here. This is what I do, but I'm not Brad Pitt. So if I was Brad Pitt, I would
angle.
occupy myself differently. This is my bread and butter. I enjoy it. I have got thick skin. I can handle this kind of thing. But once you've seen like a movie star you used to respect, or a famous author, or somebody just behave like an absolute tyrant dickhead on Twitter, you kind of, it does taint your perception of them somewhat. So I would just, if I had this famous public profile, I'd just opt out of it completely.
Yeah,
and keep it apolitical.
I mean, I don't want to know what some celebrity thinks about climate change or eating meat or, you know, feminism, or just fucking do your job.
Yeah.
Sing.
These fuckers, right, who have never had a job or life experience in their entire life besides having their ass kicked and dressing up and pretending to be somebody else, which I'm not undervaluing. I am a big movie fan at the end of the day. Once one of those bastards get within an inch of an Oscars or awards show microphone, they think, I absolutely must use this moment, me, the smart one, to educate the planet on these really important things. And it's, I can't, like, I can see behind the curtain now. These people are idiots. They've got nothing to give. I mean, these are exceptions, but the majority of them have got nothing to contribute to the intellectual landscape.
This is what irritates me about Meghan Markle then, because she sees herself as this, you know, she is the ultimate social justice warrior. She thinks that, since the age of 11 I've been fighting this battle and I'm the only one who can right all the wrongs in the world. And, you know, meanwhile you're in your multi-million-dollar mansion in LA, you know, you're talking about climate change, and then you're using private jets to fly around the fucking world to lecture us about climate change, and you're being more sustainable, and you're talking about helping women get back in the workplace, and, you know, you're doing fuck all yourself. Who are you to lecture anybody? And they probably think that's what people
William
want.
saying something about a while back
climate
about
change, yeah.
No, it's something, I mean, I might have to check this later, but I'm sure it was something about it's okay to take a break from work, or something like it's okay to quit your job, or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, it probably is for you, pal, when you haven't got a mortgage and bills and everything else that, you know, you purely live to make ends meet. You know, you could probably take a break, but that's not a feasible option for the vast majority of people in the world. And that's what annoys me so much, when they try and offer you advice from a position of authority when they have no concept of what everyday life is for the average person.
Really, really, really don't. And I think, like I said, they do it because I think they're under the pressure that that's what we want. That's what we're looking for. We don't just want somebody to act or sing. We want somebody to take up these important issues of the day. Well, actually, no. I just want you to do your job and entertain us.
Well, that's Meghan Markle not coming on the podcast then, isn't it?
Oh, what a shame. I thought she could really come on to tell us her truth.
Iram, I think we've nailed it. It's good to have you back. Glad you didn't die in Pakistan.
Thank you.
But that would have upset me for at least a couple of hours. It would have been a huge inconvenience, if anything. So I'm glad you're okay.
Thanks. I've saved you the bother of looking for a new podcast co-host. So, yeah.
That's it. You're irreplaceable, Iram. When you're mega famous and you have to leave, just remember the little people. Once you've got your Meghan Markle style Spotify deal, and you wanna lecture to us all from your poolside mansion in the Hollywood Hills, no, in the gay hills of Pakistan.
The gay meadows.
Very, very fucking blowjob hills or whatever it is. I can't remember.
The gay meadows in Naked Mountain.
Hashtag Naked Mountain, if anyone's made it this far.
Oh my God.